I actually believe that if you're out of shape, you have a better chance of transforming your life in other areas outside of just fitness, outside of the gym, than the guy who naturally gets in shape and is just like a walking phenom and doesn't have to put in much work and his physique is on autopilot. And a lot of people are jealous of those guys. They're like, man, I wish I had his genetics. I wish fitness came easy to me. And to be honest, no. It's a good thing that fitness didn't come easy to you and you had to work for it, and you still have to work for it. Because there are a lot of lessons that you can pull from your journey when you're really in the trenches and you're going after it and you're actually doing all of the work, you're instilling the discipline. You're shifting your identity. You're shifting everything about you. You're shifting your thoughts. You're shifting your beliefs. You're shifting your emotions. You're shifting your actions every single day to become a different man. It's different for you. It's not just going to the gym for maintenance, right? Because a lot of those guys who are already in shape, the goals become less and less prevalent in their life. They have less of a transformation that they need to make in themselves to get a certain look that they're looking for, to get a certain physique that they're looking for. And you, as somebody who's coming in who isn't in shape, who is trying to get in shape, maybe you're overweight, maybe you're super skinny and you have to make that big transformation and you have to actually put in the work. You now can be able to take a lot of those mental lessons that you have in the gym to now take it into real life and start to dominate in every other area of your life, versus the guy who comes in and he's like, all right, I just look at weights and everything just works for me, and doesn't even think about why he's doing what he's doing, doesn't even have the mental struggles that you have when you're in the gym. The gym is the easiest way, it's the best way to be able to simulate life, to be able to handle a lot of your mental problems in life. It's the best way to do it. And what gets you motivated to go in the gym? What gets you inspired to go to the gym? Well, you have things that you want to accomplish. You have certain mental hurdles that you have to go through when you're in the gym. You have to go through pain. You have to go through struggle. Versus the guy who's effortlessly lifting, that's not a problem for him. It's on autopilot. And then when he tries to then go into other areas of life, he struggles because he doesn't necessarily know what it takes to handle a lot of those stresses that happen in real life. And it happened, especially for me, because you guys don't know, like, or maybe some of you guys do know, when I was going through my transformation back when I was in college, I had to go through gruesome time. Yeah, my genetics are pretty good, right? Like, they're pretty good, but at the same time, I could have let myself go completely. I was super skinny. I was super scrawny. I didn't really have much muscle, none of that, right? I still had to put in a lot of work, not as an overweight guy trying to lose weight, but as an underweight guy trying to gain weight. Right? Which is another struggle that people don't even understand. It's actually hard, right? But a lot of those lessons I learned I was able to use those in real life because I understood the struggle. I understood the pain. I understood looking in the mirror and seeing results, but wanting more and trying to figure out more things and trying to change the way that I thought. And literally, I became a whole different person at the very end of the day, which then permeated across every other area of my life. Versus there's people who they're just born big and strong and muscular, and they can't necessarily use that. They don't even feel like they can become a different version of themselves, right? They just can't. Some people genuinely, like, that's a thing for guys who are naturally super, super jacked. Like, that wasn't me, by the way. My genetics were good to be able to hyper respond to the work that I had to put in, right? And I got exponential results. But there are a lot of guys who they genuinely just don't even work out. They don't do anything, right? They barely go to the gym. They do weight with bad form. Like, I had to learn form. I had to learn time under tension. I had to learn progressive overload. And then I understood, wait, life is like progressively overloading. You're constantly getting more and more stress, right? And then it forces you to get more cerebral with your journey as a person that wants to become unrecognizable. That's the reality of fitness. Fitness is not about just losing weight, building muscle, all of that. That's boring. That's what all of the people push. But what makes it very interesting are the life lessons that you get and the physical transformation that you make, the identity shift that you have as a person. You become a completely different human being when you start to actually understand those lessons. It's almost similar to guys who go into the military. They become completely different people because they go through the struggle. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to get to that level, but you can at least use something to be able to get the physique that you want and also get the mindset that you want to achieve it in other areas of your life. Because once you get jacked, everything changes, right? Once you start to build your physique, everything changes. You start to see the world differently. You start to see how work is actually pleasurable. Like working is pleasurable for you. I'm telling you, like I've been on autopilot over the last few months and I haven't really had a goal. I haven't actually pushed myself in the gym, and I've seen how my mindset shifted to where I'm not going as hard as I usually do. I'm just not. I'm not going as hard as I usually do. I'm not doing a lot of the things that I usually would do when I was on that fitness journey, because everything correlated. The work that I was putting in the gym, the work that I was putting in real life, it was correlated. So if you're a guy who's out of shape, you should be excited right now, because if you take the step to make that journey, you will shift your identity so hard that genuinely people won't even know who you are anymore, physically, mentally, and your life in general. Your business will start to improve because you started at a point where you needed something else to be able to take the lessons from. Versus the guy who's already in shape, he struggles in business, he struggles in life, he struggles in relationships because there was never actually a hurdle he had to go over. There was nothing. He's just born like that. Didn't have to put in much work at all. And sometimes if you are the jack guy, you have to then go back into the fire and learn more and start to expand more. Like for me, it's like I'm mixing bodybuilding and martial arts, right? And kickboxing. Now I'm having to rebuild myself to be able to achieve that new version of myself, to be unrecognizable by adding more resistance to what it is I have to do, right? Adding more things and more achievements and bigger achievements to be able to now have that fire again, right? Because if I just move the way that I am now, oh, I look good, I don't need to really improve anymore. I don't really need to go as hard in the gym as I used to. I like how I look right now. I do like how I look right now. But at the same time, imagine if I push myself even harder. And I'm natural. It's not like I'm going to look like the juiced up Ronnie Coleman if I go harder in the gym. It's not going to happen. But the reality is you have to get to a point where you want to shift your identity, and you use the gym to be able to do that. You use all of the lessons. You use all of the thoughts that you have, and you analyze yourself. You put yourself through a fire. You put yourself through a rite of passage. Right? Putting yourself through a rite of passage. That's one of the hardest things you can do as a man, is putting yourself through a rite of passage physically. And that's going to literally like just rewire your brain. Right? I always talk about nervous system, right? A lot of guys who are super jacked, who already had that, their nervous system is completely fucked. Because what happens is they start to, the gym is really, really easy for them. They've never had to train their nervous system. Right? They coast when they're in the gym because they know they don't need to go as hard to get the results that they need. And so in life, they kind of do the same thing, but then life becomes a lot harder than the gym. And because the gym wasn't hard for them, they go into life and they always flop. They always fail because their nervous system wasn't primed for that. They weren't primed to deal with that type of stress, because like business is way stressful than the gym. That's one thing that you have to understand if you're not in business. If you are in business, business is way more stressful than the gym. The gym just allows for you to be able to simulate a lot of that stress and be able to work your nervous system, to train your nervous system, to be able to go into those situations and solve those problems. But if you don't do that, you get stuck. So that's why you're at a benefit. If you're out of shape right now, you're benefiting big time. There's a lot of guys who wish they were probably you, because I wish I was super, super out of shape right now, because I would have a journey. I would have something to go on. Now I have to create new journeys for myself physically, right? To get that feeling again of going into the gym, of making sure my diet was on point, because if it's not on point, then I'm going to miss out on the gains that I have. That accountability, that discipline, all of those things, that journey is so powerful in other areas of your life. And the people who are going through that journey or need to go through that journey now, they're at you're such an advantage if you're not there yet. If you still are overweight, or you still are skinny fat, or you still are super skinny, you're at such an advantage because you have something where you literally put in the work and you see the results after very, very quickly, right? You see it. Like the shift happens immediately. The minute you step in the gym and you successfully complete the workout, you successfully complete your diet for the day, you see the results. Business is not the same. It takes time. This is something that like you see it. And yes, it's going to take time for you to get to the version of yourself physically that you want to be. Of course, you're not going to look like that tomorrow, but your identity will change. You'll start to think like an athlete. You'll start to think like somebody who's highly disciplined. You'll start to be that person, and it'll start to permeate across all aspects of your life. You'll start to get more accountable. You'll start to have a lot more responsibility. Versus the guy who doesn't have that loses it, right? Take this from my lesson from me. I ended up losing a lot of that stuff because I stopped going more. I stopped training more. I stopped getting the results that I stopped finding new challenges physically to achieve. So I started coasting. I said, oh, I look good enough. I have a top 1% physique. I look good enough. But that doesn't do it for me, right? And that's the thing with the gym, it's an inner game. When a lot of people can understand this, they'll take the gym more serious. They'll love to go to the gym. They'll love to train as hard as they possibly can for an hour at a time. And they won't see it as a burden, because once you understand how it ties into other areas of your life, and then I don't want you to ever feel bad looking at somebody else who's super jacked. That's also why I made this video, because the person who's super jacked is miserable because now there's nothing more. They lose all the zest for actually improving because they've already reached what they think is the pinnacle of their physique. So what else am I going to do? Then they go into business and they get hit like a brick wall and their nervous system collapses because it's a completely different game, but it uses the same principles. But they couldn't build those principles, right? I'm talking about the person who's already they look at the gym and everything just works for them, right? The person who does that, when they get hit with business, when they get hit with careers, when they get hit with relationships, when they get hit with all these things that require for you to manage your nervous system, that require for you to have stress tolerance, that require for you to be a different type of man, they can't make that transformation actually just completely like bridge with where they're currently at. So if this didn't do anything else, at least if you're not in shape, if you're not somebody who is in shape, it allowed for you to do it. It allows for you to start getting in shape. Right? And if you need somebody, a person to help you do that, because I've had to study this. I didn't just wake up and I look the way that I look. I've had to study it. I've had to go through NASM certifications. I've had to work with people in person and understand people's mindsets. I've worked with dozens, if not dozens of men online to get the physique that they really want. I understand the inner game. I understand the mindset that's needed to win in life and to win in business. And I'm reapplying that in my life as well, to get to another level. And if that's something you're interested in, link will be in the description for my one-on-one mentorship to help you get through that process, to help you become the best version of yourself, to help you become unrecognizable, shifting your identity through physical training and habits and mindset, and making sure that you are dialed in. Because if you can get that part dialed in, you will start to see all the areas of your life improve. Subconsciously, they'll improve. Just how you handle those situations will improve. I'm not saying you get jacked or you get rich. No, that's not how it works. But you can take the principles and the lessons that you learned from that process to apply it to other things and excel naturally in other things. So I appreciate you. I hope this video is valuable. And I'm going to catch you on the next one.